This video will contain spoilers to not only the ending of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, but also the original. If you have not reached this point, this is your warning. This is my interpretation on the meaning of the ending and the credit song, so this is entirely my opinion. Thank you for listening. So after I went to Nintendo to get my first taste of turn-based JRPGs with the likes of Pokemon, I needed to get my fix somewhere else. And while I had many companies to turn to, the one that stuck out to me the most was Squaresoft, now known as Square Enix, and their flagship franchise, Final Fantasy. From the first entry to the one with the best friend Road Trip, each mainline game had a battle system that was changed up to make it different from the rest in some way. 1, 3, and 5 had the job system, 6 had the Magicite mechanic, 8 had the junction system, 2 had, the point being that each game was unique in some way or another, but as far as we know, none before nor after has reached the peak levels of popularity as Final Fantasy VII, what many consider to be the most beloved, most impressive, most overhyped, most overrated game of the series. I'm not going to mince words, I like FF7, but I wouldn't say it's the best. My personal favorite is 10, but I know that 7 is the most important Final Fantasy after 1, because it gave the push needed for JRPGs in the West. Without it, we most likely would not have gotten beloved series like Pokemon, the Xeno games, and most definitely Kingdom Hearts. I'm sure a lot of you watching already know this and most likely don't need the history lesson, but I also know there are many who have no idea what a Final Fantasy even is, so if you would rather skip ahead to the analysis portion, go to this time. And just a reminder, this is my interpretation, my opinion. With that said, let's get started. So Final Fantasy VII was released in 1997 for the Sony PlayStation to universal acclaim. It was praised, it was celebrated, and it's been part of the mainstream for decades. Now fast forward to 2006 when Square released a tech demo of the intro cutscene for the PlayStation 3. That got people talking about a remake, and while I'm sure the devs at Square Enix wanted to jump on it, that project wouldn't see the light of day until almost 10 years later. Now it's 2020. The best year ever! We've had ports of the original, a movie, several spin-off games, even novels, and now we have the remake for PS4, which has seen almost as much praise. One of the biggest hurdles to get over with the remake was how much of the story to cover. It was decided that the game only go as far as the Midgar section, which was only about 5 hours in the original game and served as an introduction before heading off into the world. And while it seems like a weird place to cut off, when most people think of 7, they most likely think about this portion, or a certain event that has yet to happen in the remake's universe. Somehow, the team had found a way to stretch a 5-hour section into a 40-hour experience by adding more side quests, story details, character development, or actual character, to even incorporating elements from the compilation of FF7. This basically did what 15 tried to do, be a Final Fantasy for fans and first-timers. Now while all these were praised to a certain point, the ending of the remake is divisive, to say the least. Many loved it or hated it, but a majority were confused and left feeling hollow, which is appropriate since that is the title of the song that plays during the end credits. What's more interesting is that even though the game's story stops after the group leaves Midgar, the song focuses on an event after this section. Now this is where I head into spoilers, so this is your last chance to bow out, cause once we get on this train, there ain't no getting off. Also, I will only focus on the major events of the Shinra HQ, so I won't be talking about certain story events, side quests, or characters added. I still love you, Roche. The game starts off similarly, where we get that nostalgic shot of the opening, along with the introductions of Aerith Gainsborough, Barrett Wallace, and Mr. Final Fantasy himself, Cloud Strife. And as the game goes along, there are many story beats that either remain the same or have slight alterations, but then towards the end of the second act, things start to take a turn. In the original game, Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa fought the Turks and failed at stopping them from activating the release switch, which caused the plate to fall on the slums of Sector 7, virtually killing thousands of people. While rescuing Marlene, Barrett's daughter, Aerith is kidnapped and taken to Shinra HQ, so the group need to infiltrate the building to rescue their friend. They meet Red 13, they're successful in the rescue, until they get caught again. President Shinra laughs in their faces, only to become best friends with Sephiroth's sword. Rufus shows up, tries to shift the blame on Avalanche, some boss fights ensue, and the group leaves Midgar into the great unknown. Now while the remake has all of these moments, there are certain changes that help set up the ending, most notably the interference of the Whispers, and Sephiroth appearing more than he did in the original. Also, Kate Sith is here. Say hi, everybody! Some believe these Dementor-looking things are actually a meta-commentary on the nature of remakes, since they appear whenever there is a major split in the story. They represent how fans want a new coat of paint for their vehicle they've had for many years, but still want it to tread on the same path they've known. Honestly, this is an interesting plot device. Originally, I thought they had something to do with the Sephiroth reunion later down the road, but when it turned out not to be the case, it made me think, so if Cloud decided to eat a sushi plate instead of Korean barbecue, do the Whispers arrive to stop him from changing the timeline? Also, I love that they're against spoilers.
My boy, you weren't a soldier.
What? What is this fascinating phenomenon? What's happening?
Here's one more fun fact. In Japanese, they're called wheelers, most likely because they get to spin the Wheel of Fate or something. And then there's this guy. After the escape sequence, Sephiroth appears and taunts Cloud to chase after him, but the Whispers of Fate try to stop the crew. Aerith believes that if they defeat Fate itself, they will end up in boundless, terrifying freedom, i.e., the story itself will change because from there, anything can happen. They go through the portal and fight 3 Super Fates based on the Sephiroth brothers from Advent Children. Once they're done, they fight an even bigger Arbiter of Fate, who has a weakness to bullets apparently. And of course, it's gotta end with the silver-haired pretty boy himself, Sephiroth! Honestly, this last fight is really cool, because the party members you get towards the end depends on how much of their relationship values you've built up throughout the game. Also, he summons Meteor, and that is horrifying. But after everything goes down, it's just Cloud and Sephiroth at the edge of creation. It's pretty evenly matched until Sephiroth knocks Cloud's sword away, but instead of finishing him off, he says this.
7 seconds till the end. Time enough for you, perhaps. But what will you do with it? Let's see.
Now, it's been theorized that this is Sephiroth after he was defeated in the original 7. Some way, somehow, this man just refused to die and can mess around with time now. And since this was directed by Tetsuya Nomura while working on Kingdom Hearts 3, that possibility does not surprise me. Sephiroth disappears, Cloud is brought back to his friends, and we learn that because of their actions, the timeline has changed completely. Characters who should be dead miraculously survived, and while that's good and all for some, Zack being alive does cause a bit of a problem. From what I gathered, in order for Cloud to believe he was in Soldier, Zack had to die, which would send Cloud into shock, causing Cloud.exe to reboot. But if Zack survives and takes an unconscious Cloud into Midgar, then how do we get this guy, who died and gave him his memories? But no matter the timeline change, the gang leave behind the Steel Skies and venture into an unknown journey. Honestly, I don't think this appears to be as we see it. This could be a symbolic ending, or there's a chance that fate could reel back around and set things right. While I do like Zack, he had more meaning in his death than in him being alive, I'm sorry to say. Right now, it's too early to call because, let's be real, Nomura loves to draw up a mystery that has either a really great or an extremely lackluster payoff because only he knows what he's doing half the time. But maybe it's on purpose that the ending is like this. Original fans of 7 already know the story, so this is probably Nomura's attempt to shake things up. The ending is supposed to cause a stir-up, to cause fans to feel empty, to get them in the right mindset to listen to the credits song. And with that said, let's analyze the lyrics of Hollow. Nobuo Uematsu returns as the composer of the soundtrack, with some help from Masashi Hamauzu and Mitsuto Suzuki. When creating Hollow, he wanted someone with a voice that could not only fit with the tone of the music, but bring out the overwhelming depths of sadness and emptiness this song wants to bring forth. So he met with Yosh Morita, the lead singer of Survive Said the Prophet, whose voice is more than fitting for this collaboration. Morita is a huge fan of Uematsu's work, so when he was asked to provide his vocal talents for the song, he was ecstatic to collaborate with a legend of the music industry. And if you have not heard the music of SSTP, you should totally check them out. They've released 5 albums at the time of this video with songs that could be categorized as emo/post-hardcore rock, but their style is ever expanding, so you could hear something that tickles your fancy. Now, it seems that the lyrics are about Cloud's feelings towards losing Aerith, but that wouldn't make much sense since the group in the remake just left Midgar, so this Cloud hasn't lost her yet. No, this is about Cloud after Aerith got, well... But there's also the fact that it's about fighting against fate and accepting the reality of the choices made, tying up nicely with the ending of the remake. It could also be argued that the lyrics reflect the thoughts of Aerith and Zack losing each other, but in the context of the overall narrative, these are Cloud's thoughts and his alone. And before any of you ask, this is Cloud after Aerith died, but before the arrival at the North Crater, because it would be pretty messed up for him to have a house with Tifa, even adopt a kid with her, but still have lingering feelings for a girl long dead. Then again, letting go of someone you used to love is hard, but we're getting distracted. The song begins with an acoustic guitar playing over an electric guitar, somewhat reminiscent of The Price of Freedom from Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. A harmonica wails in the distance, really hammering in the somber emotions our subject is feeling. Then the drums kick in, and the electric guitar crescendos, bringing strong emotions to the surface. The instruments quiet themselves, while verse 1 sets in with these lyrics.
I would be lost, drifting alone, floating up high, time after time, and there you'd be, shining brightly, your smiling face to guide my.
During the Sector 5 bombing mission, Cloud fell from the plate and landed in the church's flower bed. Granted, a normal person would be a puddle on the floor with or without some flowers to catch them, but it's a video game, so I'll let it pass. Aerith acts as a beacon of hope for Cloud, helping him figure out what is the right move to make, not just on their adventures, but morally as well. She lights the way for him so that he may follow the path he needs to tread.
Bloody and bruised, brought to my knees, when beaten down, when broken up, you would appear, reach out to me, heal every wound, and make me whole.
Aerith isn't just the main healer of the team, she's also the one who tries to find the silver linings in the situations they're in. Not to sound all Kingdom Hearts-like, but she is the one who finds the light in the darkness. Whenever the cast are down in the dumps, Aerith brings her friends out of their gloom. Now comes the pre-chorus.
Was it all a dream? Will I never know? Foolish and blind to everything. Had I realized, had I thought it through, would you be here in my embrace?
In the remake, there were moments where Cloud had prophetic visions. One of them is Aerith seconds before she dies. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever experienced losing a loved one, but when it does happen, you question if it's real, if your mind is messing with you. Cloud is going through this same denial, but then he thinks about how Aerith decided to go to the City of the Ancients on her own, not wanting her friends to get involved in the affairs of the Cetra and Genova. Once he realizes the reality of the situation, he wonders if he had known this would happen, could he have saved her? The first chorus spills out Cloud's feelings in an emotional howl.
Shine bright.
Now, if you remember earlier, I said it wouldn't make sense for this to be about the feelings of Cloud in the remake. This has to be Cloud of the original FF7, yeah? But Aerith is gone, never to come back. That is, unless Cloud found the same method of time travel that Sephiroth has. It's possible that this version of Cloud is going to rewrite history to stop Aerith from being killed, and make it so that she will be with her friends at the final battle with Sephiroth! Or maybe it's more about the holy materia that fell into the pool and Aerith's spirit is guiding them to it. Cloud desperately wants to find the materia, not just to stop Sephiroth's plan to destroy the planet, but to have Aerith close to him once more. Moving on, we reach the second pre-chorus, where things get softer once again, but we still have another storm ahead of us. But why not a second verse, some of you may ask? Uematsu decided to have a guitar solo there instead, and it is a nice touch. Aerith, be it in the original or the remake, always seemed ahead of the curve, knowing more than everyone else. Most likely because of her link to the planet, she just knew how or where certain events would transpire. But that came at a cost of knowing whose lives would be lost, possibly knowing hers would be as well. Check out this line.
I'm grateful for all the words we've shared, for all the moments and the memories. You've made me more happy than you know. And I'll always cherish what you've given me. But whatever happens, you can't fall in love with me.
She wouldn't have said that unless she knew that she wasn't going to make it to the end of this journey. And Cloud believes that if he hadn't been so fixated on finding Sephiroth, then maybe she wouldn't have been sacrificed for the good of the world.
With your every smile, hiding something more, dark mysteries lurking beneath. But I was consumed with this emptiness, this selfishness, this void to fill.
Now we get hit with two choruses back to back. Again, Cloud vows to find Aerith, be it physically or metaphorically, so that he can see her smile and understand her woes. But Cloud eventually comes to terms with his grief. He knows he will never see Aerith alive again, being left hollow.
Hear me.
By this point, our protagonist has accepted it, moving on with the pain in his heart to fulfill his destiny. If it wasn't obvious at this point, you should realize that this song is for those who played the original 7. You can only understand its true meaning if you had witnessed Aerith's death and saw what it did to Cloud. But it's also about wanting to fight fate and accepting reality. which is what our heroes do at the end of the remake, so it still works. Honestly, this song is so good at conveying the feelings of not only Cloud, but also the player, since they are also intertwined with these characters' stories. What's also neat is in the Sector 5 slums, there's an instrumental version of this song, further connecting Cloud and Aerith. Nobuo Uematsu is called a legendary composer for a reason. Not only has he created memorable soundtracks, he can compose songs for the mainstream audience and get applauded for it. This man has certainly outdone himself with this song, so it's going to be hard to follow it up in part 2, I'm sure. Anyway, that's the end of this analysis. Thank you for listening to me ramble about my thoughts on fictional video game characters and their feelings. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed and are looking forward to another analysis. Best wishes, and I'll see you at the next one.